Yes, yes, yes. We're gonna talk about Euthia. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is To Back or Not to Back. We're going to go over all the active Kickstarters, going through them, and game pounds, of course. There's a few game pounds today, so a whole bunch of stuff to go over. We're going to cover cancellations, not funding. We're going to cover all the new campaigns, the updates, all the usual stuff. But first, let's start off with Cult of the Now. Cult of the Now is a segment where we go over a currently available game, and today we're going to go over Kohaku from 20th Century Games, although we actually will be going over Ra later today from 20th Century Games as well. But Kohaku is currently $26 over at Miniature Market. This is the second edition, currently available, a cheap, easily available game that is, available now, as opposed to paying Kickstarter prices. Then this is a well-rated abstract tile-laying game. I have not had the chance to play this one myself. I will eventually get to it, but this is Kohaku, a very, very affordable game, $26. Granted, you have to pay shipping, but the good news is Miniature Market does have pretty good shipping, or you can go for $100 and get a whole bunch of games and still probably spend less than you will on one of these other games. I call it Cult of the Now because they're available now. There's no waiting, there's no uncertainty, there's no question marks about pricing, there's none of the Kickstarter drama. It's just a game at retail, easily available, and just as tempting. Actually, that's not true. Not as tempting, but should be just as tempting. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into Board Game Adjacent. Diving into Board Game Adjacent with the 2023 Board Game Mosaic calendar. This is coming to you from Katja Howitson. This is, I think, her third year running on this one. She does these art creations, and she turns them into calendars as well. 516 backers, $14,000 raised, and this is basically a board game calendar. Like I said already, it's her art creations, where she takes these pieces, board game components, and she makes board game pictures out of them. Either logos, or various components from games, or art. This can be a Gloomhaven, a Frosthaven monster over there. We have various things from other board games. I believe this is Alka... Merchants, what's it called? Merchants Cove. I believe this is Merchants Cove, but they have a whole bunch of different options as far as, well, it's not true. They have one option. They have a calendar with a whole bunch of different art pieces in said calendar, as well as a 10x10 challenge that they're throwing in, that she's throwing in at the same time. We have over here Flamecraft, we have Itoku. She's showing you all the things you're getting, or most of the things. We have it coming soon. But if you like board game art creations, if you like seeing, graphical images made out of board game components, and then trying to figure out if you can spot which board game components went into each picture, well, this is basically the Board Game Mosaic calendar from Katja Howitson. Third time around, and available on Kickstarter for roughly $20 or so, $22 Canadian, around $18 for one copy, plus shipping and all of that. From there, let's go ahead and move into cancellations and not funding, starting with Euthia. Euthia canceled with $500,000 raised. It canceled the 2 days in at $500,000 raised. I'm not going to do a full dedicated thing on this. We'll talk about it for 2-3 minutes. If you want to skip this, timestamps to all the sections down below. Euthia, once again, start off that conversation that happens every time this happens, which is fake funding goals. If they needed 6,000 backers, if they needed 150,000, whatever it was they needed, I don't even know what they needed. I'm saying, if you do the math on, they raised 500,000. If they needed 1.5 million, if they needed 6,000 backers, why did they say they have a funding goal of 100,000 euro? Why did they lie to us? And that's a regular conversation whenever you see one of these cancellations. And I'm not going to go into that this time, because this is very different than those times. That is an ongoing conversation. If you want, you can search Board Game Co. fake funding goals. You'll find 2 or 3 videos that I've talked about this before, and I'm sure I will talk about it again. This is not the first or the last time it has come up. It is a regular conversation. I'm not going to get into the fake funding goal aspect now. What I will say is this is very different. This is not a campaign that was hoping to find more money. This is not a campaign that's saying, hey, we're canceling and we're relaunching and we're coming back. By the way, I'm realizing I gave no context here. Euthia canceled, and it canceled after getting $500,000 raised with 2,000 backers. They put an update saying, hey, sorry, we really needed 6,000 backers, so we're going to cancel now. And then people were like, what in the world? 1, why did you put the wrong fake funding goals, which again, we're not going to focus on. And then 2, what's going on here, and why are you canceling, and why aren't you waiting till the end of the campaign, and what is happening? People are going to jump in, back, all these different things. 2,000 backers 2 days in, maybe that would have translated into 5,500 backers by the time the end of the campaign, maybe 6,000, maybe they could have done an optional buy and add an incentive, a conversation, as opposed to, instead, they canceled the campaign and they're closing their doors. And the fact that they're closing their doors makes this a very different conversation than normal, because this is not a campaign that didn't get what they wanted to, and so they're canceling and relaunching with the hope of getting what they want. This is a campaign that is closing their doors. They're completely shutting down as a company, which means this is an entirely different conversation. there is a conversation to be had around fake funding goals, but something is different and strange with this one. And however frustrated you are, I guarantee you there are people who sunk their lives into this that are far more frustrated. There must be some degree of prior situation, prior company death. This is their second campaign. It's a reprint. They must have gone into the red in the last campaign. I'm not going to overly theorize about what's happening, but something is messed up on this campaign. Something is wrong about a company that sits there and says, we're going to spend months and months building out new content, building new miniature sculpts. We're going to continue to invest more into this game. And then 2 days in, we're going to cancel it. We're not going to wait till the end of the campaign. We're not going to put out a thing saying, hey, by the way, guys, I know we're at 4,500 backers and we have a week left. We really need 6,000 backers or we just can't viably do this as a company. They're not going to communicate. They're not going to talk. They're going to say take 8, 9, 10 months of how much planning went into this campaign, and they're going to just shut the door. Close the company. I don't know what's going on. I believe over on Board Game Revolution, I believe they are doing some sort of interview. I don't know if it's written or something, but I believe the company will be issuing more statements or some form of clarification. What I will say is this is not your typical canceled campaign. This is not your typical fake funding goal situation. This is very different. It is a continued sign of the times we live in which things are messed up. I put out the whole Marvel Zombies videos the past 2 weeks, and I got a lot of comments from people who are like, hey, Euthia is offering free shipping on their game. Well, Euthia is not delivering their game. It's messy out there. It is absolutely messy out there. There's going to be more content around this from this channel, from other channels. Dice Tower just did a video on the whole shipping job and everything going on there. Quacklope's been doing some. King of Ravage did some. I will have more content as well. Not Marvel Zombies focus this next time, but rather just the general state of the world. It is worse than you realize out there, and companies are shutting down. Companies are closing their doors. Some companies have asked you for money. Some companies have not. Some companies have gone into the red. Some companies have possibly not. I assume some companies have not gone into the red. But it's incredibly messy out there to be someone who is creating board games and trying to get them over to wherever, to anywhere. Just the freight costs, the everything. It's just, not just freight, by the way. Regular materials, cardboard costs are up a tremendous amount. Any different factor that goes into the production of a game has gotten more expensive. And so I'm going to sit here on my videos and tell you, hey, don't back this. It might be cheaper at retail, but who knows if you'll have a C at retail. Everything has changed. Every degree of advice I give you on to back or not to back is up in the air. We have games like Frosthaven, where they said, hey, this is the price, this is the MSRP, and I'm like, hey, don't back Frosthaven, it's going to be cheaper at retail. Well, guess what? The cost of components, the state of the world, the state of freight, Frosthaven is going to be twice the price of the Kickstarter. That's insanity. And it means I was wrong. It means I give you advice based on the situation, and the world completely changed, and that's true across the board. We are living in very, very uncertain times when you have a $500,000 campaign that was offering free shipping, because, that's apparently the way to do it. When they sit there and close their doors entirely as a company, not just on the campaign, it is messy out there. The whole fake funding goals is a different conversation. Again, feel free to Google Board Game Co. fake funding goals. You'll find a few videos. And again, in the future, you'll find more. But this is very different than that usual norm. This is something different, and the people behind the game, the people who spent months and months of their life trying to make that happen, I guarantee you they wanted this to work far more than you did. And so while it's frustrating, it is frustrating. I make no mistake. It's absolutely to both have the chance to get the original game as well as to get all the new content. It is frustrating to invest days, maybe weeks of anticipation, and then have the whole thing fall out from underneath you. But it's not. You're not the most frustrated party here. It is very, very messy out there. That's basically Euthia. So from there, let's move on to other games and be more cheerful, I guess. Avalonia. Avalonia also canceled, unfortunately. This one is going to be coming back to Kickstarter, or at least I should rephrase that. Based on what they say in the update, it sounds like they're coming back. They're reevaluating. Avalonia seems like a good game from what I see. King of Ravage put out a very favorable review on this one. This one actually reminds me heavily of the Nightmare Cathedral in the sense of a theme and a darkness to it that I have no interest in, combined with card play that makes this area control game seem very compelling. So I'm actually very interested in Avalonia, very interested in paying attention to it when it comes back. If it's anything like the Nightmare Cathedral, then I am in, because I really enjoyed the card play tableau elements of the Nightmare Cathedral, and seeing that same idea over here in Avalonia could be very intriguing. Again, just thematically I wasn't interested, and it seems like a lot of other people were not thematically interested enough, so this one canceled. Will hopefully be coming back at some point in some way, shape, or form. From there we have a bunch of not funding category. We have Dungeon Makers coming in 94 backers, $2,600 raised. This one likely will fund based on where it is right now. This is a strategic tile-laying game of dungeon building for 1 to 2 players. Basically got a solo mode, got a 2-player mode as you build out the dungeon. You're the person who's building the dungeon. You're not going into the dungeon. Someone's got to go into the dungeon in a later game, and you're building it out, trying to get all the tiles together to score as well efficiently as possible, to put this next to that, and get all your tiles in order. Coming in at roughly, where is it, $36, $28 for the Dungeon Maker's game. This one likely will fund, like I said already, but nothing yet. Next up, we have Wombat Kombat. This one's a little more on the fence as to whether it will or won't fund. 124 backers, $7,600, 25 days to go. Wombat Kombat is a unpeaceful strategic card game. It's a game of basically building your wombat armies and attacking each other for the poop cubes. That's the deal. And wombats, in case you didn't know, they collect poop, and so games about wombats often involve collecting poop, because why wouldn't you take an opportunity to collect poop cubes whenever you have a chance to collect poop cubes? You're gonna be building out your armies, building out the like types to get as strong as possible, playing cards. It's one of those take that more adjacent party style games. Not really my genre, but here if you want it. $25 for the standard version, $30 for the Kickstarter exclusive version, $39 for the expansions, and then $87 for the Wombat set over here. Again, may not fund. It's currently halfway through based on being, 4 or 5 days in. Not the best chance, but could go either way. From there we have a few updates. No major news around some of these, although I am very happy to see that Assault and Doomrock, the Ultimate Edition, first of all, I am backing it. 2 weeks ago when I talked about this one, I was like, I shouldn't, I'm tempted. I got like 2 people who are like, don't do it, Alex, you're gonna regret it. And then I got like 20 people who are like, do it, it's like such a good game, you'll love it. And so the 2 people are probably right, but I'm going to go with the 20 for now and hope for the best. But Assault and Doomrock Ultimate Edition. This is the Ultimate Edition of Assault and Doomrock. No major updates here. What I will say is there's a whole bunch of stretch goals, unlocks, all those things. You can check that out. This is just a reminder that the campaign closes in a day, or less than a day. By the time you watch this, the campaign closes imminently. Imminently, like hours from now. But in the latest update, one thing I saw that I particularly liked is they have the borderless card art, which is great because I thought this was very clunky and very 2012, which is probably when the game came out, so that makes sense. But this whole very thick black border versus this, they're slowly updating the various cards, making it borderless, much cleaner, much better. Very happy with the change. Makes it seem like a title that wasn't put out 7 years ago. Nothing wrong with titles put out 7 years ago. There's many titles that are amazing from 7 years ago. But hey, you're reprinting it. Why not take the opportunity to clean it up? We also have Uprising Titans of the First Age. Another day left over here. This one a little bit more, so you have like a full 24 hours-ish or something like that from whenever you see this video. You got time, but not a ton of time. But yeah, this is going to be, they have a bunch of, again, upgrades, stretch goals. You can check out the stretch goals over here to see what else unlocked. Other than that, just a reminder, this campaign closes. You can see my full video on this maybe 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. I could be wrong. And the Sleeping Gods. This one was also 2 weeks ago. 2 days left in this one. 2 days, 19 hours. So like got a full 48 hours from whenever you see this. 1.7 million. This thing will almost certainly cross $2 million. I'd be shocked if it does. Shocked? Would I be shocked? 2 days. Basically 3 days from now. I think it's going to cross $2 million. This should probably cross $2 million. Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies. This one, few small updates, nothing major on this one, but first of all, in terms of the, let's see if we can find the add-ons or the Sleeping God details. There's a show over here. Do we have to go through the, I don't want to scroll around too much to find it. Let's just go ahead and go into the updates to find it. But basically there were 2 main updates, and then there's some other news past that. So if we go to this one over here, this is the second surprise reveal. The first one I already talked about. Second surprise reveal though is the expansion, the Distant Skies Thunderstorm Isle. This is a bunch of extra encounters, small storybook added onto your game. You can incorporate this into your very first base game. It's going to be new locations you can just fly to and visit as soon as you want. So this is a small little extra add-on in your base game. Additionally, if we go to the updates again, we have update 10, I want to say. Nope, update 9. A musical journey. This one just, well, let's talk about it. This is a soundtrack for Sleeping Gods over here, and they have Ryan and Mallory Lockett playing music, the piano and the trumpet, to make the soundtrack for this game. I don't know if it's possible to feel less efficient as a human being when you compare yourself to the Locketts. Like, they design the game, they do the art for the game, they do everything for the storytelling for the game, and apparently not enough for them. They have to do the musical soundtrack for the game themselves as well. At this point, they'll be shooting the movie for the cinematic, blockbuster film for the game. It's absolutely crazy, the skill set they have behind them. Unbelievable. Like, just playing this, I mean, I'm just... They make me feel intimidated. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, soundtrack stuff over here. That's what's going on there. And then lastly, the last update is the fact that they are bringing the Foreteller app to the base game. So if you have Sleeping Gods, they're bringing audio narration to the base game. I don't know the exact details as far as the add-on all not. The narration add-on includes Sleeping Gods. Oh, never mind. The narration add-on for the game includes the base game too. That's pretty. Kudos to them. So they're just giving it to you as a pot. It looks like they're giving it to you in addition to, if you have the donation add-on, you just get that straight in. So that's awesome. But yeah, so in case you wanted the foreteller app for the base game, which I know many did, that's available there as well. And that's all the updates, which means it's time to dive into the new campaigns. We don't have that many. We have maybe 7 or so campaigns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 campaigns to go through. Starting off with DVG Stukka Leader over here. 497 backers, $91,000 to raise. This is Stukka Leader from this part of their ongoing Corsair Leader and Other Leader and Zero Leader, expanding more games from DVG general gameplay. I don't know a lot about the gameplay on this one, and I find it's harder for me to dive into this genre of games that doesn't really appeal to me, so I'm not heavily going to focus on the gameplay. I will say there's a lot of add-ons over here in terms of optional buys to get in on more stuff. So we have the Stukka Leader base pledge for $110 MSRP from a $75 price point. If you have context, if you look at some of their prior campaigns on DVG, they have like things like a $50 price point on a $60 MSRP. So this is a much bigger discount than normal. I wonder how that will translate over, because again, this goes back to the whole shipping crisis and freight and all these things increasing, so that their games in general don't have an MSRP of $110. I could be wrong, because different games have different price points, but looking at some of their games, you're looking at $60 to $70 MSRPs. This does seem to be a jump, although I could be wrong. I didn't look at all their games. We have the Stukka Plus Aces expansion for $85 on MSRP of $130. We have $100 for the Stukka Plus Spanish Civil War. That's going to be a $70 MSRP, it looks like. No, that's going to be a $40 MSRP for the Spanish Civil War. $40 MSRP. That's much cheaper. We have the Stukka Plus What If expansion, Stukka Leader plus 2 Eastern Front, Stukka Leader plus 2 Mediterranean, and then all in $370 MSRP. So a whole bunch of expansion options to this game in terms of just getting an absolute ton of content. You can scroll through here and see what's available there. As far as holding this value, will it not? Generally, DVG games fall into the category of their price points are okay but not great. Generally, the price point is fair, but then you're paying shipping on the Kickstarter, so it depends on where you can get it. If you can pick it up at Miniature Market or wherever, you can usually save a few bucks. But that's also usually based on a $10 MSRP savings. In this case, though, the MSRP savings is significantly larger, so I'm very curious on this one. I am less confident on whether this is or isn't a good back. The pure MSRP discount is much larger than normal, which could theoretically translate into this being a better back, a better opportunity to get your hands in it. I would say that if I were interested in this game, I would probably end up getting this one on Kickstarter, just because the larger MSRP makes me think that it's likely a better back, but also this is a little different from the usual campaign, so definitely a risk either way. Moving on to Butterfly Garden. Butterfly Garden's Duel. Butterfly Garden's Duel, Dr. Finn's Bring Your Own Pencil game. This is not the first time he's done this. He's done this with a prior game with the, let's see if we can find over here, the combo over here is for Mining Colony Duel. So he's done this BYOP before with Mining Colony. This is available for $5. You can get $10 for both. This is just a print and play game where you bring your pencil, you print out the sheets, and you're good to go. We have over here, Tabletop Tulsin did a great job going through the game. If you watch this 10-minute video on how to play, incredibly clear. You can throw it on 2x speed and she'll still sound half as fast as I'm going right now, and you'll get the whole thing in 5 minutes, and everything just incredibly clear video. You can watch that. Basic idea is every single round you're going to be choosing your movement and your selection. You're going to be using those movement points over there. You're going to be defining which area of the garden you're going to, collecting butterflies, marking off tracks, and then scoring for connected areas for the butterflies you collected and for your remaining numbers over there. So just a fun, quick little game as far as trying to efficiently, roll and write, or not really roll and write. It's actually neither roll and write nor flip and write. It's just a write. It's a write game. That's what it is. There's no rolling or flipping in this game from Dr. Finn. Again, $5 for the base game, $10 for the both, and then $15 if you want the actual Butterfly Garden as well. This one would have shipping costs involved because that's an actual physical game. Will it hold its value? It's a print and play. So no, just get it if you want it, don't if you don't. Moving on to Kingdom Builder Empire Edition. I like Queen games. I often am frustrated by Queen games, although this is probably how people feel, but come on. I think Queen games is my command for a lot of people. $136,000 raised, 568 backers. Queen Games continuously puts out games that I want, and then they attach price tags to them that I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want it anymore. Kingdom Builder Empire Edition. I was like, okay, I got rid of Kingdom Builder. I love Kingdom Builder, to be very clear, but then I got Winter Kingdom, and I prefer Winter Kingdom to Kingdom Builder, but they don't seem to be expanding Winter Kingdom. I have to try to find out. I've seen nothing as far as them expanding Winter Kingdom, whereas the Kingdom Builder has a ton of content for it, and so I was like, do I want Kingdom Builder back? And they have this Empire Edition, which gives you all the expansion content to Kingdom Builder, and it upgrades your entire board and everything, giving you this whole board, which I don't care about the player boards over there. It gives you a lot of deluxeifications. Like, it upgrades all the tokens, it upgrades your houses. Your individual houses are going to be much nicer in terms of the, let's see if we can find them. These, instead of the wooden houses, you get these plastic, unique houses. I mean, wood versus plastic is a different conversation, but these molds and sculpts, if they look anything like through the renders, that would be amazing. And then you have these castles to actually go on the place, so you don't have to figure out where the castles are. You can just see them, and the boards larger to accommodate the hexes, and they have all these other things, and they have, you know, the miniature crowns. These are upgraded. The wooden discs for players are upgraded to miniature crowns. You have resin tiles over here. You have expanded quarry gems, although to be fair, I'd probably end up getting deluxified gems elsewhere because those look cheap plastic either way. I almost prefer the wooden ones, but maybe I can get something from Top Shelf Gamer. They often have quality components I can get for that. And then they have the player boards, which I like the fact they have these places for your ability tiles, but this board feels like a giant amount of extra space that I don't know if I'll have in front of me. I'll use them if they work. I won't if they don't. All this stuff over here. And then new art. They have new art for all these things. Look at the new art over here from new versus old, and they have that on the cards as well. The cards in particular. Look at this card. Look how gorgeous this card is compared to the original. And I thought the original was fine back then. And so it has me wanting. And then we have 8 cards and 2 cardboard standees over here for the Emperor's Choice Kickstarter exclusive content over here. Although I am sad, like many others, that these are not miniatures as well once you're making the miniatures. Whatever. I'll find something on Etsy. Fine. All of this stuff. They are basically, just when I was out, they had pulled me back in. And then they slapped that $249 price tag on the game. Now, it's not even unfair, to be clear. It's not, I don't even think it's unfair. Compared to their previous big boxes, or some of their Queen, the Stefan Feld City Collection, $249 here. What you're getting here is you're getting a base game that's going to run you $50, $60, and I can't find this. This is not readily available right now either, by the way. These are all seemingly are out of print, from at least from the major online retailers I looked at. But this alone would run you $50, let's say, plus $70, $35 per expansion, so that's $140. You're looking at around $190 just for the basic game of all the content. That doesn't include the fact that you're getting the Queenies 1 to 3, and that doesn't include the fact that you're also getting premium everything. So I don't even think the price is unfair. I just wanted it to be cheaper, if that helps. I definitely wanted it to be cheaper. I definitely wanted the game to be cheaper for me. So where I am with this right now is I don't know what I'm doing personally. I can't speak for that. We do have an upgrade kit if you have the previous second edition big box. If you just want to upgrade stuff, do be mindful, because the pieces are dropped larger. Your board won't be exactly equitable. It'll fit, but it'll be a little crowded. So just look at the details there. Make sure you're fine with that. And then we have a standard base game Kingdom Builder starter set, just giving you the miniature castles and the resin ability tiles, which ironically are the thing I'm least interested in. I like the concept of the resin ability tiles. These, just the way they have that coloring printed on top of that. Hopefully that's not final production, because that looks off. It doesn't look like a perfect match over there. It's fine. I just wish it were a bit better. But that's basically what we have over here. And as far as this, I mean, that's what we got. We have $59 for the basic Star Edition. We have $149 for the upgrade kit. And we have $239. So you do save $10 for the early bird Kingdom Builder Empire Edition, which is 44 spots left as of right now. Although whenever you're watching this, on the off chance that there are not spots left, you can always just hit refresh and see, because people will drop in and out at any given point, and there's a decent chance you'll be able to find a spot as long as you're patient. Or you could just spend the extra $10 and get the regular version, where there are already 9 people at this level. I've never understood this. 9 of you, whoever you 9 are, if you're watching this right now, can you go ahead and switch to the early bird so you can save yourself $10? Because right now you're just donating $10 to Queen Games, which is very nice of you. I'm sure they appreciate it. So, what's going on here? Should you back or should you not? First of all, on a personal note, I still love Kingdom Builder, and I'm very inclined to get this. I don't know what I'm actually doing. I probably shouldn't, but I love the game. I've always loved the game. The only reason I got rid of it is because of Winter Kingdom, which does some elements better. I have a full play this, not that, and Winter Kingdom versus Kingdom Builder. I think both are great. If they're not expanding Winter Kingdom, though, I kind of want Kingdom Builder back, which brings us to the whole, should you back it, should you not, will it hold its value? The short version is Queen Games big boxes are expensive. They do this a lot. They do this on Fresco, they do this on Alhambra. They apparently, based on the comments of this Kickstarter, they will be doing it on Lancaster too, which, oh my gosh, I already have. I mean, I hope they do it on, they didn't do El Grande. No, El Grande is not them. But Lancaster, I would love a big box version of Lancaster that is upgraded and deluxified, because I love Lancaster and I love Kingdom Builder, and I'm inclined and incentivized to get these games, and they are generally expensive when they do them, although they do for the most part do a decent job holding their value, because they are hard to get your hands on, and they are building off IPs. They're building off not really IPs, but game systems that have tons of expansions, that are well loved, that are sought after. They generally do a good job holding their value on these bigger box games, despite the price point on the City Collection, despite the price point on Alhambra, on Kingdom Builder. Some of their smaller offerings on Kickstarter, whenever they put out these smaller games that have a decently high price point, when those show up at retail, they're much cheaper, and often the extras you get aren't that great. But their big boxes are expensive, but usually do a decent job holding their value. Not a guarantee, but again, just factor in what you're getting here. You're getting in $200 worth of game content alone. You're just paying an extra $50 for the upgrades and the extras, which, considering the bigger board, the acrylic tiles, the gems that look kind of stupid, the various miniature buildings and all that, I don't think it's an unreasonable price point. I just wish it were a better price point. So yeah, I think it might still hold its value on this one. they're going to be hard to get your hands on. And supposedly this is like a definitive edition or whatnot, and according to the comments, they will not be coming out with another one next year, although no one said anything about 2 years from now. That's Kingdom Builder Empire Edition from Queen Games. From there we have Age of Steam Deluxe, expansion volumes 1, 2, and 3, expansion volumes for Age of Steam. Age of Steam is the complicated. Age of Steam is one of the 3 iterations of a particular type of train game designed by Martin Wallace. We have Railroad, we have Railways of the World, we have Age of Steam, and we have Steam. My personal favorite from those is Steam, although I do like Railways of the World, and Age of Steam is my least favorite. I highly recommend watching a video from Tom Vassell where he compares those 3 games and talks about them. His opinion is dead on to my own, or I should say my opinion is dead on to his, whatever it is. I agree with him very strongly in that video, and that's why Age of Steam is my least favorite. That said, it is a well-loved game, and I've enjoyed the game. I just prefer Steam. Age of Steam is a train game in which you're trying to build out your railways, you're trying to be cutthroat with your money, take loans as needed, do what you need to do to basically just survive. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to survive, although eventually then thrive. Now you're going to be doing this, engaging this pick up and deliver map along with the other players, trying to create networks and trying to have the most efficient movement from one cube to the tracks of its color. A basic concept being utilized in all 3 of these game systems with different tweaks to how they operate. Age of Steam got the deluxe version from Eagle Gryphon a year or so ago, and it landed in people's doors and people liked it, and it's well loved. It's just cleaned and iterated upon an older game title, and they just deluxified it and brought it to Kickstarter, and that game did a great job holding its value just fine, which is relevant to this one. This one is bringing you 3 expansion boxes. Expansion box 1 is 4 maps, although it seems like those 4 maps are reprints of cleanups and matching of older maps to match your Age of Steam box. So your original Age of Steam already came with multiple maps. The map pack 1 comes with a few more maps that are already available but deluxified and cleaned up, and the map packs 2 and 3 seem to be new content for the game, which is important because Age of Steam has very few maps available online for you to get your hands on at all. I mean, this game has so little expansion content. I'm joking, by the way. Age of Steam has like 7 bajillion map packs. If you go to Age of Steam on Board Game Geek and you search the expansion tab, prepare to be shocked. It is obscene just how many maps there are for this game. But hey, good, we got 6 more today, so that's helpful. But anyways, and it does match your new content, your new version of the game, although you could use your deluxe game to still use older maps. You don't have to have matching stuff. Either way, that's what's going on over here. Pledge levels are going to be $48 for each of the new map packs, $48 for 2, $48 for 3, and $64 for 1, because that's 4 maps instead of 3 maps. We have $79 for the original Age of Steam Deluxe over here, slightly more than the original. I think it's slightly more than the original Kickstarter. I could be wrong, although it is definitely less than buying it on their website right now. So if you went to Eagle Gryphon Games, it's $89 or whatnot, although I don't know if they charge shipping, so I should probably look into that. $94 for the Everything New, which is basically map pack 2 and 3. It's a $2 savings to get them separately, so it's not a ton, but hey, I mean, if you can save $2, why not? And then all in Age of Steam Deluxe for $245, giving you this deluxe base game, map pack 1, 2, and 3. That's what's going on here. If you like Age of Steam, you should go ahead and jump in on the map packs. If you don't, well, if you want them, you may not need them. I don't really know. It's more of a you question. If you don't know anything about Age of Steam, well, this is your opportunity to go ahead and jump in at possibly the cheapest price point for this particular version of the game. Although if you're willing to have the original version of the game, you can get it for half the price on the Board Game Geek Marketplace. Just buy it used, half the price, the original game. You should only pay this price point if you particularly want the newer art style and all of that. As far as will it hold its value, will it not? Well, the original Age of Steam did a great job. By the original, I don't mean original. I mean the last Kickstarter for the deluxe version of Age of Steam did a great job holding its value. People are selling that copy for easily $20 or $30 more than they paid for. I imagine that will hold true to buying it now as well as the map packs. Although these things are often available on Eagle Gryphon Games website, sometimes they are out of print, and the Kickstarter price point is better than getting it directly from them. So you won't make a bank on this one if it's not for you. I mean, ideally the game is for you and great, but if it's not for you, while you won't be making any tons of money, you should be able to get your money back on this one, and that is Age of Steam Deluxe Expansion Packs, original base game reprint, plus expansion packs 1, 2, and 3. From there we have Zerywia the board game and reprint. This is the reprint plus expansion content and all that. Zerywia the board game, a cooperative story, campaign-esque single shot kind of adventure game as you go through the various stories and backstories of your characters, and the mechanics of the game I can't speak to. There's a lot going on in this adventure game, cooperative adventure game. 683 backers, $80,000. This is a reprint. The game already exists. You can look on Board Game Geek. It's very well rated, but very well rated from like 70 people, so always take that with a grain of salt, because an 8.1 is great, but an 8.1 from 70 people could easily be, biased towards a handful of people who are very closely involved with the game. Either way, point is, a good game seemingly, but just take into account because small number of ratings. There's a whole bunch of pledge levels to get in this game, a whole bunch of things. I'm not going to be going into all the aspects of what this game is doing differently. There's elements of push your luck, there's elements of equipment, of character building, all these different things. Again, I usually have a hard time really defining why one style of this game is different than another without heavily going into a whole lot of information. So if you're interested in this, there's a ton more information you can check out from Board Game Geek to various content out there. Lots of information out there for Zerywia. As far as what you can get over here, as far as the pledge levels, we have a few different options. We have some Kickstarter exclusive content. Why back now? This is a limited edition of the game, and that's true, by the way. This game is the original game that came out. Nearly impossible to find to get your hands in it. It's just not available. Even on Board Game Geek, you can't find any copies for sale. You can find copies that have sold, but no copies actively for sale. So that's a great reason to back now. This thing's produced in Poland, by the way, which could be a good thing nowadays with everything going on. But as far as the stretch goals, whole bunch of stretch goals they've unlocked already. And as far as the pledge levels, I want to go through here and show you on here because I think it'll do a better job. But that does mean I need to scroll down all the way through tons of content. We have over here $49, £49 for the base game over here, £59 for the base game plus the Hex Drinker expansion, £95 for the board game and all these other expansions, then £165, but that's okay, we got more coming, £225 for all of this content over here, and £269 for everything going on. Now factor in some of these pledge levels start introducing other non-gameplay elements, so you might want to scale back down to over here, the £165, and build up what you want from there. You can go through that and see what works for you as far as the individual base game, plus the pledges, plus the expansion, plus the gameplay, plus the non-gameplay. You can find an offering that works for you, but you can basically spend as little as £49 plus shipping, or as much as £269 plus shipping to get all the content for Zerywia. And then we have the individual add-ons broken down over here, so in case you're picking and choosing your specific pledge level. Will it hold its value? Will it not? Short version is seemingly from the original. The answer is yes. That's what I can see so far. Now, again, there's not a lot of sales out there, so take it with a grain of salt, but the original game that did land, the handful of sales there are on Board Game Geek, it does look like this game will hold its value, probably just due to the limited options. Like it's decently weighted, and there's just so little options to actually get your hands on it outside of the Kickstarter, which just makes it a better prime to hold this value. Certainly not a guarantee, especially with a reprint, but despite being expensive, it seems to have held this value on the handful of sales I found it after, which means if you're interested in this game, you might want to try getting on the Kickstarter, although deciding whether to get all the content, that's a different conversation that you'll have to figure out on your own. Moving on to Raw by 20th Century Games. Raw by 20th Century Games, $276,000 raised over on GameFound, 3,700 backers, 17 days left. This is, well, Raw. It's Reina Knizia's Raw, and it's the newest iteration of Raw, although if you pay attention to the FAQ, this is region locked, so depending on where you are, you actually can't buy this game. Like, they'll reject your, purchase after the fact, although you will have your own opportunities to get your hands on the game, because apparently Raw's rights have been sold to, like, who knows how many different places, and you'll have different art options for different regions and locations. What does that mean? It just means different people bought the rights to the game in different regions, and they're all producing their own version of the game, same mechanics, but different, stuff going on behind that. This is art by Ian O'Toole, and this one looks gorgeous to me. I've had the prototype, everything looks chunky. Well, I have the prototype, I still have the prototype. This one's chunky bits, and it's just a solid way. The suns are all nice wooden blocks, the raw tokens big and hefty, and then the Kickstarter content for the exclusive edition has even more extras and deluxifications. So the base game over here, let's see if we can find this over here. The standard edition of the game, nope, I scrolled too far. What's in the box? What's in the box? Standard edition of the game, $40 US to $40 on a $50 MSRP for the game, although again that savings will mostly be wiped out by shipping, so if you want the standard edition of the game, your odds are that retail are going to be cheaper, although see what I said at the beginning of this video about the fact that the state of the world is crazy right now, so I'd recommend if you want the base game to wait till retail, but that's not a guarantee on anything anymore, unfortunately. So that's the base game over here. What do you got over there? You have the auction board, the individual player aids, these are the player boards where you store your tiles, and has information on it that's much better than any edition of Raw I've played with until now. I think I've played with 2 different editions. This is my 3rd time I've played with a version of Raw. We have over here, we have the Sunboat, the APA counter, the Raw meeple, the wooden tiles, so these are all premium components already. Then we have the individual cardboard tiles you'll be drawing from the bag, what you're auctioning off. And then we have the cardboard point tablets, which is basically your money in the game. That's not true. It's your points in the game. I don't know why I said it's money. It's points. Then over there, we have $80 US dollars for the deluxe edition of the game. This is all the GameFound exclusive. They're printing what they need for GameFound, plus they're printing a few extras. But if you want the game, this is not available at retail. This is like, here and then conventions or website or stuff like that. So much lower availability for this. And for the extra $40, because it is doubling the price of the game, so you have to know you want this to get that, we're getting all the stuff you got in the base game, plus we're getting 180 wooden auction tiles. So instead of getting these little cardboard tiles, tiles, you're getting wooden auction tiles, which is a very nice premium upgrade over there for everything you're drawing from the bag. And then we have 80 plus metal point tablets plus the bag. So you're getting these shiny metal points instead of the cardboard ones. Both of those are solid deluxifications. If you think of them as being $20 each, that's basically what you're getting for the deluxe edition of the game. Now, it is doubling the price of the game on a game that, I mean, $40 isn't the cheapest. It's not expensive either, but it's mid-range. Once you factor in the $10 shipping, you're looking at $50 for a game like Ra, especially if you've been trying to track it down. That could be cheaper than the current out-of-print prices on various options anyway, but you're basically doubling the price of the game if you get these metal point tablets and the wooden bits. So while they are very nice, and they are definitely more expensive, so factor that in as well. That's what we have as far as Ra. The game itself, tons of content out there. This game has been out for a very long time. It's a very solid auction game that's existed for a very long time for Knizia, and has gone through several different printings. Should you back it? Should you not? It depends what you want. If you want the standard edition, I would still wait for retail. Even though there's no guarantees, even though there's always risks and questions and all those things, you can't live your life in the constant state of FOMO, because by that logic you would back absolutely everything, because who knows what's going to happen. And the who knows what's going to happen applies just as much, by the way, to the actual games you're backing right now. There's no guarantee whether someone's going to come back to you asking for more money, or whether there's going to be delays in shipping and all these things. The only current guarantee is buying the game that's in your online store or local retailer right now. That's the only guarantee. If you're waiting for the future retail, or you're backing a game hoping for the best, there's always going to be the state of unknown. There always theoretically is, but right now we know that we're going through these states of unknown, so nothing's a guarantee. So I try not to let the FOMO aspect completely affect my decisions, so I wouldn't get the standard edition. What I would get is that 80, over here we have 684 backers currently backing that edition. Over here what I would get is the deluxe edition, because if you want that, that is premium. That is giving you a solid, well-rated, well-sought-after game and giving it the deluxe treatment, so I think this one will hold its value. Never guarantee, of course, but take a combine a well-rated, well-loved game that's been around for a very long time, and whenever it goes out of print, it hits those high marks in terms of the price point on the game. You give it a deluxe print with art by Euthia, production by 20th Century Games, and a whole bunch of deluxifications, and I think the $80 option will hold its value just fine. So that's what I'd be inclined for if you're willing to pay double the price. Otherwise, I'd wait for retail. Moving on to Pirates, Dragons, and Treasure. 153 backers, $10,000 raised, 23 days to go. Pirates, Dragons, and Treasures looks like it's drifting into the more lightweight party genre adjacent. This is less a heavy strategy and more, let's make a game. So I don't even know what that means. Let's make a game. What I mean by that is let's go into the game. So basically, you're going to be pulling out a dragon that you're going to be competing to take down, and then from there you're just trying to build your crew, build your upgrades, your crew, grab treasure cards, grab the bounties and curses and all those things. You're basically just slowly building out your deck of cards, and then you're building out your crew and your upgrades, and then from there, whenever you feel ready, you're going to start taking on the dragon, at which point you'll start going through the challenge deck and having cards dealt out to attack you, and you'll have to figure out whether you built out a crew combination that actually survives the attack. It gives me small vibes reminiscent of Welcome to the Dungeon, although with a very different actual approach as to how you build the actual stuff you're dealing and how you build your own individual things, but small vibes reminiscent of the Welcome to the Dungeon series of games, or Welcome Back to the Dungeon as well. But basically, once you either accomplish and defeat the dragon, you win, and if alternatively, if you lose, then you have to start trying to build it out again, trying to figure out if you can now take advantage of it and rebuild yourself before the other players tackle it. The practical reality, though, is at this point, the other players are now diving into it, trying to take down the dragon before you have. So it's kind of this race to be strong enough and then to commit and actually win what you committed to. Supposedly, you're never completely safe. Almost any combination can result in you dying, and supposedly almost any combination can result in you winning, although the statistical odds are different. So there's always a chance of being like, I see that John's about to go for it, so I'm going to jump in even though I'm not technically ready enough, but hey, maybe I have a chance over here. You see, odds of victory over 90%, odds of victory less than 10%, but less than 10% does not mean not at all. That's basically what we have going on here. We have that's $1,000. You should not pay $1,000 for this game. We have $30 for the standard edition of the game, $55 for Double Dragon, $75 for the Salty Dog Limited Edition, a whole bunch of different options as far as what you get over here. Overall, I would say this one is not likely to hold its value. With 153 backers, this is one that, there's not enough demand for this, and the price point is pulling you. Like, for instance, I gave you the example, Welcome to the Dungeon. That's like a $15, $20 game. That's a final landed price, everything without shipping. This is going to be $40 minimum by the time you pay for shipping, which makes it a fairly expensive game for the genre it's leaning into, which makes me think that the 153 backers, of which is not a lot, I think that will carry over into retail as well, and there won't be a lot of demand. The flip side is, if you want this game, there's also not really a lot of opportunities to get your hands in it. This is not going to have a strong availability with only 153 backers currently. So if you want it, this might be your only chance, but I do not think it holds its value if it's a game that's not for you. And then lastly, the Flood. The Flood. 1,100 backers, $123,000 raised, 24 days to go. The Flood is bringing you, well, it's bringing you the Flood. It's bringing you the biblical story of the Flood, although with a few different twists to it in terms of, first of all, you have multiple players all trying to create their own arc, so we're all doing our own separate thing over here. You have a bunch of cooperative scenarios that definitely aren't things that I remember from the Bible at all. Definitely just a whole bunch of different stuff going on, but it's using the general theme, and then it's bringing in the various expansions and options and co-op scenarios, the various beast modules. You're going to be building out your little caravans, and then trying to expand your caravan tracks, whatever it is, to gather goods as you roll dice to gather goods from the various locations you're around. You'll have your mammoth or whatever it is that's going off to collect various goods, all while you try to get what you need to basically build your arc in time. Build your arc before the floods come, before the little lightning bolt, the weather token moves around the track. You're going to be gathering resources, you're going to be building things out, you're going to be collecting coins. Coins have a variety of uses, from building up the next level of your arc to using them for other conversions or different things. Lots of little small katana adjacent genre going on here. You have these hex tiles, you're building stuff out, you're collecting from where you roll. It's very katana adjacent with a bunch of other things added onto the experience. Mark Street from the Dice Tower has an excellent video. You can go through his, full 10-minute breakdown and all that. Again, see what I said earlier about the 2x speed aspect. You can definitely do that. And currently they have a whole lot of stretch goals unlocked, although what has me most interested probably is the co-op scenarios, because again, the whole idea of us separately building our arcs just feels a drop disconnected from what the theme is of the game. Not the end of the world. I've done crazier things in board games. Board games are all fantasy, and so yeah, but either way. Anyways, so moving into the pledge levels over here, what do we have? So you have the basic how to play, survey the land, roll the dice, collect resources from where you're adjacent to, and eventually build your arc and survive the flood. That's what happens next when you build the arc. We have Meeple University going through a full how to play, because Mark's more of an overview. Meeple University will have the full how to play, and it's available on Tabletop Simulator if you want, which I may be having to dive into because I'm very intrigued by the game, but not intrigued enough to pull the trigger just yet. Base game is going to be $55 and an MSRP of $65. Now again, if that comes to retail, that does mean that you're basically paying more than you should, because that's going to run into $55 and a $65 MSRP. Once you pay shipping as well, means you're going to be paying more than you will at retail if this shows up at retail. That's the base game over there. But from there, that's going to give you all the tokens you see here, all the arcs, these wooden arcs, not the miniatures, these wooden tokens over here, all just the wooden-fied things, meeplified. We have the Flood over here, premium miniatures, high-level detail miniatures for everything, plus the Flood Beast module over here. So you still have wooden components for a lot of things, but the arcs have been upgraded. That's going to be $85 for the deluxe edition. And if you're backing on Kickstarter, that's already the pledge that I'd probably incentivize, because anything lower than that, and you may as well wait to retail. No guarantee. Who knows about the FOMO, but again, see what I said already. Then for $149, that's a lot, and it's while the MSRP is $179, at this point you're starting to drift into stuff that has Kickstarter exclusive content, so that starts to matter a little less, because you're not comparing it to what's available at retail, you're comparing it to what's available, well, on Kickstarter. So we have all these arc miniatures over here. You have the 5 to 6 player expansion, you have a game mat, you have a whole bunch of things. The investors are $1,400. I'm not even looking at that one over there. We're going to skip that entirely, and then we'll see what the various add-ons are for coins, for metal coins. $10 for 15 metal coins, depends on how good they are. $10 for 15 coins, depends on the quality heavily. We have the 5 to 6 player expansion, which I could see myself playing with, but probably not, so do I really need that? We have the Beast module for $20. We have all these different options as far as the individual things you get over here. But yeah, costs can add up very quickly on this one, depending on what you want to get your hands on. As far as stretch goals, we have a whole bunch of things. We have the co-op scenarios, we have the Distant Land, the Gopher Wood, there's the Dinosaur, Triceratops expansion I saw, a whole bunch of content creation you can go through over there. So over here, as we scroll down, you can see the various stretch goals that have been unlocked and are continuing to be unlocked. Over here, we have the social goal, the Triceratops Dinosaur co-op scenario module, 3,000 backers, all these things. We have the Facebook unlock, a whole bunch of different things going on for this game. Where I am with this one is I think the art and production look phenomenal. And thematically, I like things, biblical stuff, so I'm fine with that. I just am not sold on the game just yet. So I might be trying to dive into it on TTS. I don't know. It looks simple, and the price point for what it is might be a little bit not what I'm looking for. The price point of $150 or even $85 plus shipping for the game weight it's bringing might not be what I'm looking for, and it might be Katana's just totally fine. This game does seem Katana adjacent, but again, the production quality is definitely up there on the production quality, definitely up there on the art. I'm very curious on how the gameplay actually stands out, whether it stands out or whether it just feels like a Catan ripoff, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I don't mind innovation and all that stuff. I don't mind taking from another game and trying to see if you can build something better. I just mind if I'm paying $85 for an experience that feels derivative. That's the part I'm uncertain on. Will it hold its value? Will it not? Hard to say on this one. This is my biggest question mark of the day, just because, again, there's clearly enough of demand that people here are already backing at a variety of pledge levels to get their hands on the game. And this is somewhat unique in what it's doing. Not necessarily unique in the gameplay on its own, but there's somewhat unique elements to the game, from the theme, from the general production, to what it's doing, to the being Catan adjacent, but not actually Catan. I am intrigued by the game, and clearly other people are as well. I just don't know if that's going to hold it over into people paying $85 plus later if you find out it's not a game for you. So I'm gonna lean more towards that. I think it's not gonna hold its value, but it is a question mark. It's always a question mark, especially when you have things in this mid-range where there's not a lot of historical data, kind of a guess, or who knows how it goes. And that is basically everything we have for the Kickstarter campaigns today, which means it's time for Picks of the Week. Picks of the week, I generally do 2 picks of the week, one that I think is the most likely to hold its value, and one that I think is one that I know is my personal interest pick. As far as my personal interest pick, I'm going to go with Ra. The Flood is there, it's almost there, but I'm still uncertain, versus Ra is just a great game. And so Ra is easily my personal interest pick of the week. This is the one that I like the most, or I'm intrigued by the most. I've played it, so not so much intrigued as it is liked. And then as far as holding its value, Ra Deluxe Edition would be a contender, but because I'm picking this for pick of the week, I'll go ahead and give this one to Age of Steam. Age of Steam is the one that I think is the most likely to actually hold its value. Again, based on the original campaign, just based on the price points there. You're not making money on this one or anything like that, but it does seem like one that's a fairly safe back in case you're interested in this one, in case you want to see if it's a game for you, or if you want the expansion maps, in which case you already know it's a game for you, probably. And that is everything. As far as next week, coming up next week, we have a few things. We have Microcosmos, micro space game of creating colonies, bringing back survivors, all that stuff. Small box game over here. We have another small box game, Tiny Epic Vikings, with 1,100 people following the campaign. This is basically Blood Rage in a small box. Very intrigued to how this one does. And then we have the Resist from Salt and Pepper from David Thompson over, and a few other designers as well. I just know David Thompson over on GameFound. This one launching in a few days as well. And that's everything we have. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And have a good one. I forgot to prep a joke. I completely forgot to prep a joke. So I'm going to have to go with a derivative joke from what I did last week. Okay, because last week's was fine. This one's derivative, though. But it's only because I completely forgot to make sure I had a joke in advance. Okay? Recently, I've been addicted... Just maybe I want to do it properly. Recently, I've been addicted to drinking brake fluid. My family doesn't like it, but I can stop anytime I want.